Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the Cryptoverse. We are continuing our collaboration series. Today we have Wendy on our channel. Before we jump in, the social information for her, so her YouTube channel, her Twitter, her TikTok, etc., you can find all that in the description below or the pinned comment, so make sure you go follow her on her social media channels. And Wendy, it's a pleasure to have you here.
I'm so excited to be here. The last time we had a conversation, a lot of people were not very happy in the mentions when I had you on my show. And it looks like, dare I say, but we were right.
Yeah, so I was on your channel a few weeks ago and we talked about, okay, there's a good chance here we see a lower low because we saw the same thing happen in 2018, like when no one expected it at the end of the year. So what's your take on it now that it happened? I mean, were you expecting it to unfold the way that it did, or it was one of those things where it's like we knew it was going to happen, but we didn't know how it was going to happen?
I think I want to say that we knew it was going to happen. We didn't, but we didn't know how. And the reason why is the crypto and Bitcoin environment is so much different than what it was last cycle. We had a lot of vaporware out there and not actual real products. DeFi was kind of a pipe dream. NFTs were a pipe dream. Collateralized loans were a pipe dream. And now we actually have these things that do work. With that being said, we had a big increase of exchanges that were fighting
Right.
behind the scenes. And if you take a look at Bitcoin historical data, we generally get an 85% correction during the bear markets. And that wasn't achieved yet. And that's why I was very adamant that, hey, we haven't had minor capitulation yet. We haven't had all of these other things happen. I do think we will see that 85% drawdown. And I still do have my eyes set on that $15,000 to $10,000 area with a bid set at 9,500. And again, I took some additional capital and I've got some set all the way down to $6,000. I highly doubt that's going to happen, but you know how liquidity works and you know how the market makers work. And sometimes you get those thin order books and you can catch a bid, you can catch a knife at those prices.
For sure. And we saw that even in the bull market. There were occasionally wicks all the way down where you could pick it up for like half off in a single
Yeah.
day. So now that we've had this drop, so we had a drop to around 15.5. So it's made it, I believe, so before Bitcoin was only down what, like 74% when it went down to 17.5. Now it's gone down closer to 76 or 77%, I believe. So it is getting closer sort of to that 80% milestone that we've often talked about. Once it reaches that, like, so let's suppose we reach that milestone because we've already gotten relatively close. How confident would you say that you would be that things are slowly starting to turn back the other way and into the Bulls' favor?
I am not ready to say that we're going to get super bullish yet. And the reason why is we had this big issue with FTX International. We had all the capitulation with some of those other companies. And I think that there's going to be a lot more fear mongering done by the media that is going to add to some of the fundamental analysis. I'm also very curious to see what's going on with MicroStrategy. They own quite a bit of Bitcoin. I'm curious to see with their liquidation prices, how they're going to get more capital to help with that. And I'm also curious to really see what the Bitcoin miners are doing because again, we haven't really seen Bitcoin miner capitulation. And do you remember when everybody was saying Bitcoin will never break down below seven? It was between 7 and 6K. They're like, it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. I didn't know because this is my first cycle, but it broke down and we kissed like $3,400 and everybody lost their minds.
Yeah. Well, that's what
And that was a minor
happens.
capitulation.
That's what happens when you spend so much time at some of these suppressed prices, right? These companies go out of business and it's like they don't want to sell, but they're forced to, right? In all these liquidations, we've seen these other companies like Celsius, FTX. There's so much talk about these companies, going under and potentially having to be, forced to sell certain assets and whatnot. And you mentioned that you don't really think it's time to get bullish after we get to those levels, and I think history would agree with that. I mean, in general, we see a sideways phase after a pretty long and brutal bear market. Do you have any type of speculation on how long you think that phase would last? I mean, if we do go sideways, which does seem like a likely possibility, do you think it would last for the entire year of 2023? Do you think it could last longer, shorter? What's your general take on that?
Right now, I'm really paying attention to Bitcoin halving. Right now, I believe it's 1 year and 170 days. But again, that number does fluctuate. And I think it's important that we use that to kind of determine this market cycle. In addition to that, we also do need to determine or pay attention to what's happening regulatory wise. If we get really bad regulation coming out of this crypto contagion, things are going to get a lot worse. And that could potentially delay the next bull run, because the last bull run we saw was really driven heavily by DeFi. Do you remember DeFi summer of 2020?
Yeah, it was fun.
All of the food tokens that people, it was absolutely crazy. So we had DeFi that happened, and then, or excuse me, DeFi summer of 2020, and then NFT summer of 2021, and it kind of, that was the bull market. And then obviously Bitcoin pumped to really great areas. But I just feel like I feel like it's too early to tell. Obviously, I know you've got really, really great tools that help you see things a little bit differently. And I look at different things. I look at social cues. I pay attention to who's saying what in my mentions. I pay attention to who's building what, regulations, et cetera. And I think it's important to kind of merge together your expertise when it comes to a lot of the technicals, a lot of the numbers and the math, and then my take on the different fundamentals, as well as, the support and resistance areas, people's emotions, et cetera. Because with support and resistance, that's pretty much tracking people's emotions.
Right. I mean, I think you're right. What do you think about, because you mentioned regulations, and I think you're right. I mean, this is kind of like the crypto's financial crisis, right? Like where everything's crashing down, and we're realizing one of the reasons is because people are just so greedy with other people's money, and it's bound to lead to regulations. Do you think that regulations are going to hit Bitcoin as hard as it might hit other markets? Do you think it'll hit it more so Bitcoin than other, and when I say other markets, what I'm referring to is, say, like the altcoin market, the NFT market, that kind of stuff? Or do you think it'll be, worse for Bitcoin, better for Bitcoin with respect to those markets? What do you think?
So me personally, when I look at the entire everything in our industry, I view it as crypto, Bitcoin, altcoins, and NFTs. And with that being said, is the public servants like to use different tactics for different sectors. With Bitcoin, they like to spin the narrative that it's very bad for the environment because it's proof of work. With altcoins, they like to spin the fact that there's lots of scams, there's a lot of bad actors, there's a lot of volatility, et cetera. And with NFTs, they like to kind of retort back to they're bad for the environment, but they're not securities and they're a way to launder money, and they're, or they are securities, but they're a way to launder money. There's all these different things. So I feel like when we're talking about regulation, we really do have to break each individual sector down. And then with altcoins, you obviously have to break down. Is it DeFi? Is it an NFT token? Is it like an exchange token, like all of those different things. And then we can see how regulation is work. Bitcoin will be the last to be hit, but the way that they will hit it and spin it is going to be because of climate. Even though the president of El Salvador proved that you can 100% safely mine Bitcoin without impacting the environment with 100% geothermal energy.
One of the things you mentioned earlier was the social cues, and I'm curious because that's a really interesting metric. There's other metrics like the fear and greed index, which kind of tries to measure some of the sentiment type stuff. What does it tell you right now? I mean, like, what are people's general take? I mean, a few weeks ago, I remember the general narrative being, well, everyone's bearish, so I'm going to be bullish, right? Was a popular retail sentiment that I saw. And everyone was calling for 25K, and we just came down and put in a new low. What is the sentiment now? Like, does that help? Like, if you didn't even know what the price of Bitcoin was, would sort of the sentiment give you some idea as to how close we are getting to a major bottom?
Yeah, so because I pay attention to my mentions on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. So I look at all of these different social platforms, and each social platform it has different skilled investors. For the most part, with TikTok, you're going to get really just brand new folks that come in. Twitter is going to be the more experienced. YouTube is going to be in the middle between Twitter and TikTok. But I try to gauge what's happening, and everybody's really scared. Like, the only people that aren't scared of this is the OGs that have been in the space for a long time. I'm not one of them because I'm still fairly new, end of 2017. And also the more experienced traders, the guys that know how to capitalize on this market volatility, that have a lot of the tools that you have, that are very good at reading order books. They're very good at utilizing technicals and different type of information, and they're really able to separate their emotions completely from what's happening in the market. So right now, people are scared. And then also too, if you go and you look at the posts underneath Gary Gensler's posts, like the mentions under Gary Gensler's, Elizabeth Warren, you'll get an idea as to what people are talking about. And then it's good to cross-reference it with similar posts that are made on TikTok by those particular political individuals, because then you'll see what the people that aren't involved in crypto, what they're thinking and saying. And that does definitely impact the market, because they're going to be the ones that are going to be screaming that we need regulation and whatnot.
Yeah, looking at what you've previously said throughout the year, I feel like you've nailed it so far this year. Sometimes it's just like, guys, we're in a bear market. Like, let's not overcomplicate this thing. But as you know, like when things do start to turn around, my question is what are you most excited about for the next bull market? So let's just try to move past the bear market of 2022. Let's try to move past whatever happens in 2023. What are you most excited about in crypto for, say, like the 2024, 2025 timeframe?
Honestly, I'm excited to really see what's going to happen with NFTs. And I know that some people are probably like, this is a trader channel. Why are you talking about NFTs? You can actually trade NFTs. You can trade NFTs just the way you would sell something on eBay. Before I got into crypto, I actually went to thrift stores. I would buy used designer goods and flip them on eBay for profit. But you can sell NFTs the same way. And I really think that we're going to see a lot more built out for the true utility of NFTs. This is also going to impact crypto, because a lot of this stuff has crypto tokens associated with it. And of course, I'm excited about Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is kind of that tool that we can use for, silent protest, or to, express opinions about things without having to put it out there publicly. And again, it's considering that we are going to be getting to CBDC, Bitcoin is and will be one of the more true decentralized cryptocurrencies that we do have. Bitcoin maximalists, don't come for me.
No, but you're right. There's a whole NFT market out there. A ton of people made a ton of money in the NFT market. A lot of people lost a lot of money in the NFT market. But there's a case to be made. Are there any, are you more excited about existing NFT projects that have already been born and are currently in development? Or are you more excited about up and coming NFT projects that either are going to be released soon or might not even be a thought right now, but could pop up in a year or two?
So I am actually more excited about the platforms that will truly support creators, like the artists, the people that are doing the one-of-one stuff. The 10,000 generative, 8 pictures or whatever it is, those are fun too. But realistically, I like the fact that we can find solutions for real world problems, and NFTs do solve that to an extent. The whole royalties issues, the IP issues, anybody that's watching this that's in the music industry, you might agree with me to some certain extent. But I'm excited about that type of stuff. And I think that NFTs are good for the entire crypto space, because it makes Bitcoin not look as scary for your average person that might be like, oh, this is too technical, I don't know how to do this. But it makes you feel a little bit more comfortable, because the NFT community is very different than the altcoin community or the Bitcoin community.
Right. You know, it this all feels like deja vu, right? Just like 4 years later. What do you have any specific advice you would give people? Because there's a lot of new people that have gotten really wrecked in 2022. Extremely wrecked, because the calling the bottom idea is very difficult in a bear market, because we typically just go lower. But do you have any words of wisdom, from lessons you've learned yourself? I know you said you at least experienced the 2018 bear market.
God, I thought I knew everything, because do you remember John McAfee, the coin pump of the day?
Oh, yeah.
I remember that stuff, and everybody thought that they were geniuses. And we thought, once Bitcoin hit 20,000 and we had that little pullback, it might have been to I don't have the chart in front of me, 15th or whatever that was. We thought it was going to go back up, but in fact it didn't. So I guess the best piece of advice is, if you're somebody who likes a dollar cost average, just make sure that you have some sort of exit plan, and you understand that this could go a lot lower. Always have a trading and investing plan. And maybe one of the things I just said on somebody else's show was, I said, maybe consider, if you have some altcoins that are down significantly, you might consider selling those. It might be great as a tax write-off. Of course, you have to consult your local CPA, but you might want to take that capital and dump it into Bitcoin, because Bitcoin seems to be one of the more safer bets. And also too, if you're looking to buy altcoins right now, be very, very careful, because a lot of times these teams are like, oh my God, what are we going to do? The market's down, the community's mad. So they change the tokenomics and they change the fundamentals. And some of them do have the option to change the code, which in fact can be actually detrimental to the project. And the original reason why you invested in it, that might not no longer be there might no longer be. So I think it's important to really take a step back, reanalyze your portfolio, reanalyze your investing and trading habits, and start to make changes now that can be better. And one last piece of advice, well, two. No action is an action. It's okay to sit on your hands. It's okay to sit on your hands and not do anything. Also, Investopedia is 100% free. Like, your channel is great, but at the same time, somebody might need a little bit more help. And Investopedia is free. You can go there, you can research things. And I know all of you watching have an additional 10 minutes every day to continue to self-educate yourself, but spend this time educating yourself and networking also.
I do think this channel will appreciate your level-headed approach for sure, because it can be a breath of fresh air from like the constant like, oh, we're gonna pump tomorrow mentality, and oftentimes even if we do pump in a bear market, it's very short-lived, and then we just end up going further down. I think you've provided a really great perspective on the market. I really would like people, if you're not subscribed to Wendy, she does a show every day called the O Show. Make sure you go subscribe. We'll leave a link down in the description below as well in the pinned comment. It was a pleasure having you on, Wendy, and we'll hopefully have you on again in the future.
Yep, and happy to have you back on my show. Thank you guys.
Sounds good. All right, guys. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.